let me yell at you for 5 minutes. I'm going to yell at you here in the dressing room, and then I'll come out. I said, okay. So all of a sudden he starts at Hertzberg, you son of a bitch, you son of a... I mean, he just went on and on. He berated me, carried on. So I walk out, and everybody heard this. So I said, I guess he's not coming out. I said, I don't know. I said, maybe he will. And he came out, and he did it. But he wanted everyone to think he was this lion, and he wasn't. He really wasn't.
You know, it's very nice of you to take me to lunch, Mr. Bialystok.
Call me Max. You know, I don't let everybody call me Max. It's only those people I like.
There was one scene when, in the seduction, when Max Bialystok is trying to convince Leo Bloom to go along with the scheme. The end of that seduction section, we were going to use the parachute jump in Coney Island. So the idea was that they would get to the top, and then Bialystok would say, top of the world, and then they would fall right through the frame. But unbeknownst to us, the parachute jump was not functioning, and it was going to cost a ton of money to get it going again, and this was a small budget movie anyway.
Springtime for Hitler. Wow, this won't run a week.
A week? Are you kidding? This play has got to close on page 4.
Who wrote it?
Who wrote it? Read, right there, read.
Franz Liebken.
Liebken.
100.
Now, on my block on 11th Street, between 5th and 6th, was Dustin Hoffman, who Alan Schwartz, my lawyer, said was very good, a good little off-Broadway actor. So Dustin read Franz Liebken. He read it for me, he read it for himself. He said, I'm going to do it. I love this. I said, you're Franz Liebken.
He's wearing a German helmet.
Don't say anything to offend him.
We had everybody all set to shoot this movie, and it's about 2 in the morning, and there's pebbles on my window. Pebbles, stones, what's going on? I open my window, I'm sleeping. Dustin's in the street. Dustin, what do you want? He said, you got to come down and talk. I said, it's 2 in the morning. He said, we got to talk. I go downstairs. What do you want? He said, you won't believe this. I just got a call at midnight from Mike Nichols. He wants me to fly out tomorrow to do a screen test. I said, for what? Mike is doing The Graduate. Ann is going to do The Graduate. He said, yeah. I said, Benjamin Braddock? They want you to audition for Benjamin Braddock? They've got to get a nice-looking boy. I said, you're signed to do Liebken. He said, you got to let me audition. I said, all right, they won't go. They won't hire you. You'll come back, you'll be Liebken, everything will be fine. So he gets on an airplane the next day. He calls me the same day. He gets there at night. They like me, they want me, I'm in. You know. So for 3 days, I see 100 guys doing German accents. Nobody's good, nobody's good. And then this guy comes in, tall guy, wearing a German helmet. This is interesting. And it turns out to be Kenny Mars. And Kenny Mars is absolutely brilliant.
Frank Liebken, I was never a member of the Nazi Party. I'm not responsible. I only followed orders. Who are you? Why do you persecute me?
Mel thinks of himself as like a star maker, and so he says to me, I've given you this great part now, and you're going to be wonderful. I said, now listen, Mel. Yeah. I said, I'm going to be up there on the roof with the pigeons, and I'm wearing a helmet. I figure I should have some pigeon shit on the helmet. Pigeon shit. There you are. See, that's the kind of taste you have. For God's sake, you want pigeon shit on your helmet? For God's sake, that's the most ridiculous. How much pigeon shit? I said, well, I figure maybe 6 or 8 little spots of pigeon shit. There you are. Okay, I'm willing to give you some pigeon shit. Right away you come up with 7 or 8. I'll give you 5. I said, I'll take 6. Okay.
I didn't know whether the character was crazy or Kenny Mars was crazy, because he seemed rather neurotic. I didn't know if he was acting or not, which was very good, because when we talked off camera, he seemed to be pretty much the way he was on camera. But when I came in with Zero and saw him with all those pigeons, I thought...
Sergeant! With his cigars, with his plenty, and his rotten painting, rotten! There was a painter. He could paint an entire apartment in one afternoon, 2 coats!
I was not nice to be near at that point because I got my costume, and I don't know what possessed me, but I thought, this will help me if I take this costume home and I sleep in it every night, which I did. I did not smell like a rose. I smelled awful. So that may be part of the reaction to the character from the other guys.
Dear Franz Liebken, sign here and make your dream a reality.
One thing we never got in was when they were taking the Siegfried oath of wearing Wagnerian helmets, old-fashioned German helmets. It seemed overboard, so I cut it in the film.
Around the end of March 1967, I was graduated from the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and I got a phone call from Alpha Betty Olson, and she said to me, "Would you like to audition for the producers?" And it was right out of school, and they said, "You have to know a Swedish accent." So I went to the library, and I talked to the librarian, and she said, "Well, maybe I could help you a little bit." She gave me a book, and it had the rhythm of the Swedish accent. And I learned my lines in the subway, and went up, and they put on "Sock It To Me, Baby," and I'm going, I'm having a great time dancing, and Mel Brooks knew just what he wanted. He loved watching it.
Lee Meredith, I think she just came with her face and her body. She just brought her body along, and we said, okay, that's a great body, and then her acting was perfect. I mean, she played this little Swedish doll,
Ulla didn't say a lot. She had a Swedish accent. It was funny because after I had done the movie, I did some publicity, and it seems that people all thought, especially in the Scandinavian countries, the Danes thought I was Swedish, the Swedish people thought I was Norwegian. They all knew it wasn't quite right, but they didn't know what it was.
Vi alle stokken til Blom, vi alle stokken til Blom, good dag på dig, vi alle stokken til Blom.
Good dag på dig is kind of like saying good morning or how do you do. And I don't think they use it much anymore. So I think people were just not quite accustomed to hearing it as everyday language. But they knew it was something.
Ulla, go to work.
Go to work.
The audition was almost exactly like when I shot the movie. And the music, it just fit right in. He didn't even say anything. He let me do it myself. He let me just feel it.
Nice girl. Now, don't let anything he says or does upset you. He's a little peculiar.
What do you mean? Yes?
My wife had a very good friend who was a fellow student actor at the Actors Studio. His name was Andreas Voutsinas. He'd come from Greece to study in America with Lee Strasberg. And he was a very talented and wonderful guy, but a thick Greek accent. And she suggested that Andreas might be wonderful for the director's roommate. The character's name was Carmen Gia, named after the German Volkswagen sports car.
I'm Carmen Gia, Monsieur Debris' private secretary. Would you please remove your shoes?
Mel Brooks, he said to me, I want you to look like Rasputin and behave like Marilyn Monroe. And that's what I did.
White, white, white is the color of our carpet.
He did his own makeup, and he would get into a tub at 2:30 in the morning, and he'd put a board across it, and he would put one fake eyelash in after another. And he would be ready by 5:30 or 6 o'clock. Then he would dress and get to the studio by 6:30 so he could go over his lines.
It relaxed me. Somehow, doing all that work, it's like I was getting out of myself. I was becoming someone else.
I convinced Mel to do one thing, that there should be an elevator in this thing, because I had had an experience just, about a couple of months prior to that. There was a Broadway producer who was doing a show, and I had done some sketches for him and talked about the show.